Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode of the United We Will Grow podcast. We are so excited to be here. My name is K.Short. I'm from the Omicron chapter, new class, and my nickname is Turtle. And I'm with my lovely co host, Miss Candace Sanchez.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. Let's see. We're recording on a Saturday because we, pre-record our episodes, and I always think it's important to reflect on it's Self-Care Saturday. I'm from the
Mm.
Everlasting Epsilon chapter, Mu class, Candace Phoenix Sanchez, from the Midwest. I just had to throw that in there.
I remember a nationals, I think it was in Chicago about a decade ago. I remember there was this little quarrel between the Southwest and the Midwest, and I was like, uh-oh, everyone wants to be the best, and that's okay. That's okay. I love that you're still carrying that on for the Midwest, so I love that. So
Yeah.
to be transparent with all of you, we wanted to focus this episode on a reflection of nationals. Candace and I had the chance to go and attend and engage, and it was just such a privilege to go as co-hosts and as sisters. And so we just felt very taken care of by our NEB. We were able to do a podcast meet and greet. We had a little impromptu episode that you got to listen to last month in August. And then we also had a workshop together. Candace had a workshop on her own. And I think overall, I just feel like we had a strong presence there. And I just felt very grateful to be amongst our sisters and to attend nationals for our 30th anniversary. So just want to give a big shout out to NEB for all the work that they've done, along with the planning committee. And of course, our founders, Amy and Michelle, Amy and Clara being with us all weekend. And then, of course, our founders showing up for our panel too, but along with all the other sisters that came. And so we just wanted to give a quick shout out to everyone that put in the hard work to make that happen. But more importantly, Candace and I really wanted to just jump on here from, I think, two sisters who have gotten involved in a way that works best for us. I think what we saw sometimes is it feels like the only way to get involved is through some sort of like position or through a chapter or whatever the case. But what I really love that Candace and I did was like, hey, we're really good at this. This is how we can contribute back. And we just wanted to talk more about how we can get more involved with our organization post nationals and post graduation and throughout life. So, Candace, what did you think about nationals? What were your thoughts? What were your reflections? And how can we just get sisters up to date who didn't get the chance to attend nationals this past year?
Yeah, I think I was really I was inspired. It just kind of like lit the fire back in me, right, for the sisterhood. I mean, I've never lost it. As sisters, you go through life, you kind of are local to your local chapter. You've built the relationships to your sisters of where you live. But when you really go to convention, or whether you go to regionals or a national convention, you kind of want to step out of that comfort zone. And I know for me, it's stepping out of my comfort zone. There weren't a lot of sisters from the Everlasting Epsilon chapter. But my sister from Mu chapter was there. Tina was there, and so her and I were able to bond and kind of get reconnected. Yaya, she's on the expansion. She's on NEB. So just again, like you kind of stepping out of your comfort zone, meeting other sisters, and I think being able to do the workshops was another opportunity for me to a way to give for like what we're giving back, right? Giving our skills, our talents to others, and kind of sharing what we've learned. Whether it's in our professional environment, just being able to kind of share our personal stories. I mean, if anything, I feel like mental health with the pandemic, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, it affected all of us, like all of us. And a lot of
Mm.
our stories like came to light about the struggles that we have, the anxiety, the depression, and just having that opportunity to be vulnerable with our sisters, like to me, and getting into that
Mm.
space, safe space, and being able to just share openly and honestly. And if sisters needed to cry, it was okay. If sisters needed to celebrate and laugh, it was okay. Sisters wanted to let loose, it was okay. I mean, for me, it was just an opportunity to meet the sisters. I think when you think about, when you're in college, the experience is so different, right? You're trying to get your degree, pursue your education, but there's a lot of pressure. And I've heard some of the sisters talk about the pressures, from their parents or their elders, or, if they're first or second generation, just there's all this pressure, right? To like be the best you can be those doctors, those lawyers. And then some of them are like, but I might not want to do that. I might want to do something else, but it's not what my parents want. So again, it was nice for me to meet so many other sisters from all over the states and just kind of come into our safe space and come together and be united, because again, united we will grow. And that's why doing this podcast is so important. At least for me, like you said, it's a way for me to give back. And I'm just honored, K.Short, like that, you had a vision, I had a vision, and the visions came together. And I love the fact that Claudia always says that she flexes her muscle. Like this podcast is, girl, I flex my muscle when it comes to it makes me so proud to know like we're telling the story of our founders and how we became this organization, this sisterhood. And I just think it's so precious and it's near and dear to my heart. And I think anyone that listens, any sisters that listen, they get something out of every episode. And to me, that's a win. That's a celebration. That means we're doing something good, right? Something for the greater of the organization, something that's bigger than we can really explain for ourselves. So I'm just honored and humbled and just blessed to be able to do this with you and for the sisterhood, in all honesty.
Yeah, I think there's a couple thoughts I have with that. I feel like first and foremost, um, Amy, I believe when they were having their founders panel, Amy got emotional talking about us in the podcast. She said that what you two are doing, that was my vision for the organization, for it to be intergenerational, for sisters from different places and spaces and different time zones and all these things to collaborate and to work together and to just contribute to this vision that she has. And so I just felt like very loved and appreciated by our founders. And I also just want to point out, I'm not sure if I said it on an episode in the past. Oh, no, I know I said it in our alumni roundtable, and we'll tell you more about that afterwards. But y'all, I'm going to be honest with you. We have the best founders. Like, I don't know if we think about it how often to know that like our founders are still around to still guide us and to recognize y'all that like we're still within the early stages of an organization, and to be able to have our founders like around to guide us, to mentor us, to show us the way is really special. But not only that, I feel like the more that we attend, the more that they go, it's really awesome to be able to get to know them individually, but also to observe them from afar. And I just observed Amy, like, just wanting to connect with every sister possible. Like, you would see Clara and she's like, okay, I'm tired. Let's go home. And she's like, okay, just like one more conversation, But like, Amy was like talking to sisters one on one. And, I wasn't like being Matiche and like trying to listen in on the conversations, but like, she was like staying late hours talking to sisters one on one. And I think doing this for 30 years, I personally wasn't expecting that, but like to witness that, it made me even more proud to be a sister of Gamma Alpha Omega. And so I just
Hmm.
want to give y'all a little tidbit of what I saw because I was just like, wow, like we're so lucky. We're so
Yeah.
lucky to be a part of the beginning parts of this organization. But at the
Hmm.
same time, we also have the flip of the coin and to some level of responsibility to keep it going because we don't have a full-fledged like system and processes laid out. If I've observed anything about our founders, um, they like to do things their way. And that is literally why the organization exists because they didn't find themselves in the organizations that were at ASU. And so they said, we're going to start our own. And sometimes when it comes to starting your own, you want to do things your way. And so we're at this turning point in the organization, 30 years old, where I'm not sure about you, Candace, but I felt like that fire did also light within me, but in a way of like a sense of urgency that if we don't do something, the organization doesn't technically need to exist for another 30 years. Like our
Hmm.
founders are going to be, in the little upper digits, in 30 years, it's going to be more gray hairs than not, and if we're so lucky and all love in that way, but, like they're not going to have the same amount of energy. So I think it's important for sisters who've had the opportunity to be a part of the organization, who've gone away after graduation, who have served in the past, who have kind of just been disappeared on us. I think it's time to come back, y'all. And I say that because that's the sense of urgency I was feeling. It's like, hey, like, at least in my observation, I think we were trying to really hone in on the undergraduate experience for the past 30 years. I think now, this is just my suggestion. I'm thinking maybe we need to pivot and think about, it is united we will grow, but maybe it's about being reunited and we will grow. because where y'all at? Where are our sisters at? And so, yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Candace?
I mean, I think, when you talk about like age, well, I'll talk about age because, when the founders, like we're almost all the same, right? We're all getting into our, like I'm 52. They're a little bit younger than I am, just because I was an older sister that pledged the sorority. I pledged when I was 33. So just thinking I was an adult in college, pledging for Gamma. Um, and when I think about like Patsy and Clara, like we're getting ready in my room. Like, oh my God, like for the ball, for the gala, right? I felt like, I was just so like happy to be able to host them, right? And then to create a
Hmm.
bond with them and like have that like relationship with the founders, knowing like we're all the same age and we're all at certain points in our lives, right? Whether, it's with our kids growing up or like losing parents or because one of our founders at Nationals had lost their father, I believe. I think was it Annette? Her dad had passed away. Annette, I believe. One of our founders,
And I think Clara too.
right. And so it's just like to think about those life experiences that we go through, right, as individuals, but that when you're in a sisterhood, your sisters can be there for you, right, in your times of distress, in your times of need. And to me, that's time goes by so fast. And when you're an undergrad, you're in college, you're 19 or 20, you're not really looking to be 50, right? You're just living in the moment. But when you're our age, we're reflecting back, like backwards, right? So again, like for me, when I think about the founders, like what you were saying, and that we still have them, I think yes, we are lucky, we are blessed, and we should recognize and realize that that's a critical component, which is why we do what we're doing. And you're right, reunite. Like, let's all get reunited, reconnected to our purpose, to our why. Why did you join the sisterhood? How can you give back? Maybe you can't take a position in the NEB. Maybe you can't, be part of alumni chapter. But what skills and talents can you give back? Can you open up your home for an event or something? Can you host something? Can you donate to a chapter for them to do a fundraiser for whatever it is that they're trying to do in their local chapter? So again, I really think, for me, it's just when we go into our national conventions and we learn about the state of our organization, chapters, what's going on with chapters, at each of the campuses or colleges that we've all been at, right? And you hear, maybe going dormant or, there's not sisters there anymore. It kind of is like a wake up call. Do you understand what that means and what can you do to either to bring those chapters back? And I think for me, and I also think for Tina, being that she was from U chapter and I'm from Epsilon, we know how vibrant our chapters were back when we were in the sisterhood. I'm talking 2005. So that was quite a long time ago. And to know like there isn't presence there, it's like, okay, I need to do a call of action. I need to take action. So I'm working with sisters here locally in the state of Wisconsin, in our cities to try to figure out what we can do. And Tina and I and Yaya and Lupe are going to try to figure out, what is our action? What is our to-dos to try to just make something happen to bring back our chapters so that they're vibrant again. That was kind of like my promise to the founders, to the NEB, to take action and to do something with what has been given to us, right? And to me,
Hmm.
and it may or may not happen, but I know I'm going to put my best foot forward and do my best to try to make something happen.
Absolutely. I think that was a big shock for a lot of alum who were at nationals, who kind of stepped away for a little bit and to just kind of just get our eyes open to the actual state of our organization. And I think two things typically bring that attention and our awareness is one, dormant chapters, and two, disassociated sisters. I know that
Right.
that's a big, um, red flag for you. You're like, what's going on? And I think it's important for us to like take a step back. And I mean, first off, check in with your chapter to see if it's okay, because it's most likely not. And it's not because of anything in particular. I think it's just a different generation, y'all. I truly think that's just my observation. Like when you were in that room, first off, we have to realize this is our first national since the pandemic. And so we have a group of sisters that probably was going through the process during the pandemic, probably went virtual. You know what I mean? Like who knows? Like only this cohort of sisters will understand what they went through. And I mean, we could talk about it all day in terms of gosh, like that experienced during such, vital years in your growth, like we can only imagine how that happened. So you can kind of feel that when you were in the room, when you were with older sisters, they were definitely a lot more feistier. I think if you were to separate the alumni and the undergrad or recent graduates at nationals, the alumni would have, maybe we had like, say we only had 20 of us and there was like 200 of us, we still would have been the loudest. Like our energy still would have been able to fill the room. And that's not to like say anything about the undergrad. I just want us to like take a step back and realize it's just a different group of girls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Different group of
Yeah.
sisters, different group of members. And so that was
And
my
it's all
observation. And I was just thinking,
I was just gonna say it's so important
uh-huh.
again that you're acknowledging and recognizing all of that. Like it's all layers, right? And how we interact and how we communicate
Hmm.
and how we engage is different, right? Because of the experience of
Hmm.
what the pandemic put all of us through. So it's again bridging that gap, and then how do we come back together and how do we get reacquainted, reunited, revitalize,
Hmm.
refocus, it's all the RE words, right? So it's kind of like what do we do to just make all of that happen? And again, I think doing this podcast, having the ability to do this podcast is just that one step in that direction. And, again, it's no fault. I think all organizations, I mean, whether you're a big corporate structure or you're an institution, like this happens in small businesses. So this isn't like the fault of, oh, our sorority is like, oh my God, it's just, this is natural. This is what happens with transformation. This is what happens when things change culturally, society changes, technology, all of that. So it again, it's just like we just got to get innovative and creative and do things different. And this is one way to do the outreach. I feel right. I think we talked about this at nationals. Is like we are our own LinkedIn. We are our own network.
Mm.
There are so many
Hmm.
skills and talents that we all bring to the table, and we have to tap in and we have to share that network with each other. And like I'm so excited, being a life coach, being in business for myself, writing a book, doing a podcast, like motivational speaking, like those skills and talents. Like I want to create a sisterhood support program, a coaching program just for our sisterhood at a discounted rate, because to me, it's like that's my skill set to give back to my sisters who might be struggling in life and career
Hmm.
and purpose and finding their passion. I mean, that was our workshop, from getting stuck to start. You and I have
Hmm.
experience that at different levels in our life. And so why not share our skills and talents? And again, that's the beauty of this sisterhood. When you step out and you talk to other sisters, and that was a conversation I had. I had a
Hmm.
conversation with sisters that were either getting ready to graduate or maybe a year from graduation. Like, ask them, are you interested in serving on the NEB? Are you interested in taking a position? What would that be? Like, what would that look like for you? And a lot of them like said, yeah, like, and again, having those pipelines, having succession plans in place, like having a leadership institute, all the great ideas that I know you and I and the founders have kind of brainstormed with the NEB. Again, it's going to take partnership, collaboration, creativeness, innovative, us coming together and just making sure that we're doing it by right of the organization of the sisterhood, because there's a lot of work to be done, and I think with all of our skills and talents we can make it happen.
There's a lot of work to
Yeah.
be done. And I think that's what we realize. We're like, whoa, we got to come back and contribute. And so just again, I wanted to come back to the idea of taking a step back when it comes to our chapters. And I want to say this because I think sometimes we can get a little caught up in our like chapter drama. Let's just be real. Sometimes you just put a couple apples together and apples do what apples do. But at the same time, I think the idea of realizing if there's some intentionality with expansion, like for instance, when we were in that workshop with Yaya, she was talking about expansion. And she was saying that certain colleges were reaching out to Gamma because they wanted Gamma at their campus. I thought we were just going out looking for colleges to expand to. So I really appreciated going to that workshop and learning, no, like there's a need at these college campuses. And so then that makes me think about our current chapters and our dormant chapters. That makes me think that Gamma Alpha Omega exists on a lot of campuses because there wasn't a space for them. And that's something that Glada and Amy always said. It's like, we're still recruiting the same kinds of girls. We're still getting the same kinds of girls who just never felt like they had a place to call their own and that they want a home away from home, and not like
Mhm.
a home away from home of like what we typically see. A lot of our stories is like, I never thought I would be in a sorority. That's a lot of us. And so if
Mhm.
we have dormant chapters right now, that means that there's not a space for people to join. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know about y'all, but I would not have graduated without Gamma Alpha Omega. Like I would not be who I am without Gamma. You know, like I needed to be a part of a support system to pull me across the finish line and then some, you know? And so I'm just like, I can't help but think about all of these young people going to college and Gamma does not exist for them. It once did, but it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's like I want to take a step back. It's beyond the drama of like whatever, anything that can happen. It's like no, like there's a group of young people getting into the college education, I'll say still, you know, who knows what college is going to look like in 10, 15, 20 years, but they don't have a place to call home. And that's like
Mm-hmm.
my biggest concern because the reality is we've already defied the odds by graduating high school. We've already defied the odds by getting to college. Now we're trying to defy the odds again by graduating. We should recognize the statistic. How many people drop out within their first semester and it's not for them? You know,
Right.
but and I mean maybe that's why we had that conversation about you can't recruit a first year student, who knows? But if they can get in the second time or the third time at whatever year, like that's what's going to pull us across the finish line to again further our mission of increasing Latino women and women of color with a college education. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, now more than ever, you know, young people have access to college, but it doesn't mean they're going to graduate. And so again,
Yeah.
like taking a step back and realize that is the importance of coming back to Gamma. That's the importance of doing the work at Gamma. A lot of times you go and you think, oh, I'm going to build my resume. I was like, yes, but you are ensuring that there's a space for a younger version of yourself to come home to if and when they get here. And
Mm-hmm.
so when they get here, they finish. So I just
Right.
wanted to kind of put that perspective out there because I have to give an ode to not, of course, our founders, but I want to give an ode to our founding charters and founders at the chapter level.
Yes.
Where are
Yes.
y'all at? I'm
Yeah.
doing a call out. Where are our founders and charters at the chapter level? Because those sisters had to do that work to say we need this at our campus. So
Mm-hmm.
if y'all know where our founders and charters at the chapter level at, I think it's time for them to come back, y'all. We need y'all. We need y'all. We need
Yeah.
that fire. We need that tenacity. You know, like I could only imagine.
Yeah, and I know like for us here, you know, when I think about Epsilon and Mu class or Mu chapter, we know who they are. I mean, they're, you know, I have a direct dial into one of them, a couple of them. So I mean, for me, it's a quick reach out via text message, phone call. Hey, let's have a conversation. So I guess I'm lucky to have that. And
Mm-hmm.
again, just trying to make that happen. And they could be at a different point in their lives, right? Where they
Mm-hmm.
can't. But that's okay. At least you have the conversation, make them aware, and maybe they have some ideas. Like it's not to exclude them or call them out. It's just basically like, hey, just so you know, like this is what we're going to do to try to bring things back to the way that they were. And again, like I said, every organization goes through this. It's not just Gamma, our sorority. You know, when we think about the word dormant, it probably sounds like a negative, but hey, sometimes it's, you know, it's always quality versus quantity. I think we talked about that too at nationals, right? It's not about the how many, it's the quality, it's the experience, it's, you know, the sisters that truly want this for what we say a lifetime, because this is part of a lifetime sisterhood for me. You know, my sisters are the reason. You know, I can say I got very
Mm-hmm.
emotional a few times at nationals, you know, with some of the experiences when we reflected on the sisters that we've lost. That was very eye-opening for me. I remember I remember leaving that being very emotionally drained and just like, oh my God, like
Mm-hmm.
it was so, but it was beautiful at the same time, right? To acknowledge and recognize those
Mm-hmm.
sisters that are no longer with us, which again reminds us of how precious life is, how precious we are as individuals, as humans, and how we just need to embrace each other, you know, and you know, forget the drama, like, you know, leave that alone, let it go, because it doesn't serve you, you know, holding on to whatever it is with your experience. So yeah, life is precious and our sisters are precious, and you know, rest in peace, rest in heaven, you know, for the ones that we've lost. That was that was truly for me, like I had never experienced that with our sisterhood, and for the first time having that, it really,
Mm-hmm.
really like, man, my heart, like I was reflecting on that all the way home. And I remember coming
Mm-hmm.
back home and me and my sisters here were like asking me like, hey, how did it go at nationals? And I told them about, you know, that experience and the ceremony and how it touched my heart and how it was just like, and I've committed to helping plan the next national convention, whether it's serving on a subcommittee, helping to plan out that ceremony, helping to, improve on process, whatever. They need helping hands, and I'm one to raise my hand and say, whatever you need, let me help. Give me a task and I'll make sure it gets done. I've committed to that. So again, just wanting to do what I can for our sisterhood.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do want to point out it's a call out in a loving way. And I think from my
Absolutely.
observation, from our observation, we're just in a winter season as not just as an organization, but just as society, And so what happens in the winter is that we huddle close. And when we huddle close, what do you get? Fire. So that's why I'm thinking, I'm like, where are sisters who had the fire of the fire? It was the founders, it was the charters, it's those who have served on the NEB in the past, it's for those who want to serve in the future. So I'm just like, we need to build a fire, y'all, and we just need to stay warm, build a little campfire, and stick together. And I think that's the one thing that I absolutely love about our founders is that they are such a great example of sisterhood. And that's what I'm just thinking of. I'm like, we need each other. That's literally one of our passages, right? Like verses, like we need each other.
We
And
need
so
each
I just
other.
imagine us. We need the sisters who bring the fire. All of us bring a different kind of fire, but we need to start putting our sticks in our burns and things like that and start building fire and huddle together and really work on our sisterhood, really work on our relationships, and that's why I said, like, if there's a great example who does that, it's our founders. They've been doing it for 30 years and it seems like stronger than they've ever been, and it's
Yeah.
just like that. To me, like when they reunite and I see them on a panel every time I go to nationals or Southwest regionals, it's just like you can tell that it's an undeniable bond amongst them. And I feel like I told Clara, like, Clara, we need help on relationships and friendships and sisterhood because y'all been doing it. And it's just like, yeah, I just think that if there's any way for me, if I had a vision of what being reunited looks like, is being supported and how to really build a strong sisterhood amongst the girls that we get to be so lucky in this organization with.
Yeah, it was just like I said, when I think
So
Val was there, Amy was there, Patsy, Michelle, Clara, but I know Annette, I believe Annette, her father had passed like that week or the week before. So it's just like I said, when they do come together, like they're just there for each other, and just that bond sets the bond for the rest of the sisterhood, seeing that bond, right? And I love how like they can sometimes finish each other's sentences, or they know what the other one's gonna say, and I feel like that sometimes that with my sisters when we're here in Wisconsin, where I live, and when we're working on other things together. And when I see them, it's just, I mean, it's nothing but love for them, And so yeah, it's just, the other thing you said something earlier when we were talking about like how many sisters like graduate. We need to celebrate the undergrad when they get their high school degree and then they get their college degree. Like, being data driven a little bit. What are the outcomes? Like, how many sisters do we? I mean, like, I've always wanted to know the numbers, like in totality, right? Like, how many sisters, and then how many have bachelors, how many have masters, how many, and then like even the numbers of like sisters that did possibly pledge, but then that dropped, sisters that have exited the organization. I know we've talked about that too. I mean, that's kind of that, I don't want to say it's a taboo topic, but like really trying to have that hard conversation, like, well, what was it? What needs weren't met, so that we can improve upon. Because to me, that something fell through. And that even like when you leave an organization, right? They say in the corporate culture, like usually it's because of your pay, your boss, or the environment. So, getting into the meats and potatoes of like, well, why do sisters leave or drop letters? And, and I'm sure we're not the only sisterhood that would experience that, or fraternity, right? Like it happens. And again, it happens in the workplace. So I'm more curious about those types of things, having the data, having the numbers, hearing the outcomes. I think that's important to having that data in your toolbox just to kind of understand how much and the quantity of that, I don't know. For me, I just think about that a little bit too.
Yeah. I feel like the best way to wrap up this episode, Candace, is just, just to put it in documentation, podcasting for us. If you can envision the next 30 years for us, what would you want that to look like? And I'll give it to you easily. What do you want I'm going to give you either or the next 3 years to look like in our organization and or next 30 years?
I mean, I think in 3 years, for me, I always have a point of reference, a frame of reference. So if in 3 years, so by 2026, if I were to reflect back at National Convention in 2023, right? So 3 years, how many of the chapters that were dormant 3 years ago did we bring back? Were we successful? And again, data, right? Outcomes. What are the numbers, the value? What did we really accomplish that? Yes or no, being strategic in how we do things. So for me, it's like really being strategic for succession planning in 3 years. 30 years, I mean, gosh, girl, when I calculate my age, I'll be 82. I hope to God I'm still living. So in 30 years, just to see us continue to grow, right? I mean, if we continue to be healthy and living, yes, I'll still be here. But if not, just to have the organization still exist because, someone like Claudia even said, she had exited college, she had to leave college, she had to be with her family, her life was a little different, whatever, and that was okay. She expressed that in her podcast interview. But then again, it's like she said, I wonder if Gamma's still around, and it was. So it's like that's how she felt at a certain time in her life. So yeah, in 30 years, being able to say that Gamma Alpha Omega Sorority Incorporated is still existing as a sorority and as an organization. To me, that's what I want to see in 30 years, that it's still here and vibrant and growing.
I love that. I love that. Next
What about
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to think about this for a little bit. I was like, this is the thing. I can ask the questions, but when they flip it on me, I'm like, yeah, next 3 years. I would love, well, first and foremost, I'm going to put this in documentation, podcast audio, is to say that I would love um, to implement a leadership retreat for our leaders of the organization. What that looks like to me is founders, charters at every level, and NEB, and for sisters who intend to serve in the future. So that's an experience that I want to have in terms of just how to do that and how I feel I can give back to the organization. So in 3 years, technically, 1 year a leadership retreat, 2 years, a nationals, and then by the third year, it's going to be the second leadership retreat. So I'm hoping that some good headway has happened. But like I said, I would really love for us to be really honing in on being reunited within the next 3 years. Reunited, just having our efforts, going back to outreach, finding our sisters, and start creating like a directory of some sort. Like you said, like creating our own LinkedIn, creating our own ecosystem, and just start putting the foundations down of what that would look like. We have everything we need, y'all. Like, you need a lawyer, we know Tina's on her way. You need a coach, you got me and Candace. You need a nurse, I'm sure we got quite a few. You need a teacher, we have thousands of them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
what do we need? And we have everything we need, So
And depending
I
on
just don't think we
what
really
career
realize like
path they
how
want. Yeah. What career
prestigious we
path
are.
sisters
And it's because
exactly.
it's not being
Mind
showcased, it's
blown.
not being documented, there's no data.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying, like having a
She's like, yes,
yeah,
the data.
like no, like date, like seriously, because if you think about it, in our corporate structure, everything is data driven. That's how we make decisions, business decisions, and financial decisions, and what we can or cannot do. And so when I think about that data, it's kind of like having that all documented. Sisters filling out their business profile. What are their skill sets? What is their career path? And then being able to group sisters together so that when there's an undergrad or a chapter that sister wants to get into education, we'll reach out to these 10 sisters. They're all working in education. Do you want to be a daycare provider? So these are sisters that are in their own business for daycare. Like, I want to do an entrepreneurship, people that are in business for themselves. Like, we have so much to offer this sorority in our own network, like you said. So building that and creating that synergy and having that as just in our toolbox, it is priceless. You can't put a price on that. That is so valuable to have. And I'm just lucky. I'm just lucky. And again, how do we do that? By building relationships, by opening up your mouth and talking with people, whether that's in person, virtually, picking up the phone, messaging someone, just saying, hey, putting out the olive branch. Let's have a conversation. I mean, and that's how we've gotten to this point, So I think that's a great thing. So
Yeah. I mean, in a perfect world with some ponte las pilas, I would love to have all of our NAB, all of the positions filled. Is that possible in 3 years? It is possible, but
yeah.
it's going to require us coming back, So And then 30 years, I agree with you, Candace. I just want us to continue to exist. I would love for us to be international at this point, so it gives me a reason to travel more. Um, and that's really it. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's what we have stacked up against us, y'all, is like recognizing that if we don't come back, 30 years is not guaranteed, 20 years is not guaranteed, 10 years is not guaranteed, 2 years is not guaranteed, 3 years, you know? So this is just coming from your co-host of the United We Would Grow podcast. We're just saying we need each other, and that
Mm-hmm.
united and reunited, we will grow.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
Candace, do you wanna wrap us up out of here so you can get back to your vacation in Las Vegas?
In Las Vegas. I just honestly, our sisters are the reason, right? We are the reason why we are here. And so just don't forget, your why. Why did you join the sorority? Why did you want to be a member? Why did you want to be a sister? And just know that if you want it to be a lifelong, it's here for you. You can take a break, you can step away, but we're always going to be here. And it's by, the reunited that, you put your best foot forward, you come back, and you just say, hey, what can I do to help? That's all that we're looking for. And so just want to thank my lovely co-host, K.Short, my host, my co-host. It don't matter. Titles don't matter. We're here doing this together collaboratively, and I'm just so honored and blessed. So thank you for giving us this opportunity. Until next time, have a good night. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good night. Be well, and we will talk to y'all in the next episode. Bye, y'all.
Take care. Bye, everyone.